What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some final battles in the Fantasy Cup. And I know lots of people have found this league rotation very boring and repetitive, but I want to say a massive thank you to all of you that have been watching my videos, as they've actually performed very well during this rotation despite all the negativity surrounding the Fantasy Cup and the Master League. Today's battles were submitted to the channel by Palitro, who actually submitted these battles just a few hours before my own Steel Wing Togetic video went live, but I think the rest of the team is still unique enough in this meta to deserve getting featured. So with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Actually, before we get into the question of the day, I want to remind people that this week is Go Battle Week, so as always I'm hosting the Battle of Spies competition. I'll be posting several community posts throughout the week and include reminders in some of my other videos, but for now, if you want to find out more about the competition, click the link in the description. And with that being said, let's finally get into the question of the day. Which open league will you be playing in next league rotation? Let me know in the comment section down below, let me know why, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle, we see Azumarill in the lead, so very good lead matchup for us. The opponent going to safe swap into Turtonator, and when I saw this team immediately, I was thinking, it doesn't look too good up against a Turtonator. All three Pokemon have resisted fast moves up against the Fire and Dragon typing, so not ideal for us. We are going to see the opponent goes for a Flash Cannon, huge damage, and if they want to, they can just safely shield up the Aerial Ace and flip switch advantage, which isn't ideal, but Shadow Scizor still does decently up against the Azumarill with that Trailblaze damage, so it's not the end of the world here. We can come in with our Dedenne, of course. We do not want to come in with our Shadow Scizor. Going to shield up the Flash Cannon, hopefully go for a full Thundershock farm down, and we do get that farm down. The opponent's got Flygon in the back, so not ideal since obviously Togetic is our super hard counter to a Flygon, but we do go for the play rough. The opponent swaps back into Azumarill, which is an interesting play there since we weren't quite at the second play rough, but I guess the opponent lost track of our energy. Either way, we can shield up the Ice Beam. Ice Beam, of course, resisted, but honestly, these bubbles are already chunking the Scizor. We go for a Trailblaze, hitting for huge damage, boosting our attack, and we make it to a Night Slash on the CMP tie, but we're going to fully undercharge this, and this is a crazy play here. We are going to let the charge move go through. The opponent goes for an Ice Beam. We're still going to stop attacking, and that will allow us to make it to a play rough. The opponent tries to snipe there, but we're able to react quickly enough to go for the play rough, one-shotting the Flygon, Thundershocking, farming down the Azumarill, and we're able to take that game. So that was a crazy game for the first battle. Into the next battle, we see Skarmory in the lead. So pretty good lead matchup for us. Unfortunately, Discharge isn't quite going to be enough damage to take out a Skarmory, but we are going to resist the typical charge moves from the Skarmory. Still going to shield anyways though, and the opponent just goes for a Sky Attack, so could have easily lived that, but that's fine. Going to go for a second Discharge here. We are nearly at back-to-back Discharge. The opponent just happy to let the Skarmory go down, and they come in with a Flygon. So we bank the energy, we swap into our Shadow Scizor, but quite slow to swap out there. So the opponent goes for a Scorching Sands, but they do swap out into their Azumarill, and at this point we're looking pretty good. If we can align that Togetic to the Flygon, then it doesn't matter how many shields the opponent has, we should be able to win this very comfortably. The opponent goes for an Ice Beam, we actually lived that, we can go for a Night Slash now, and the opponent might just let this go through. The opponent is going to let it go through. We even get an unnecessary boost, of course we do, but now we can come in with our Dedenne, and I feel like the opponent is going to save both their shields for the Flygon, which is usually not a bad option, except when you're running Togetic, because Togetic completely walls the energy. We've seen it already on this channel, and the opponent should just be giving up at this point, unless they are running Stone Age, which is very unlikely. It is just a Scorching Sands. They do get the attack drop, but it's game over. Opponent, you're not going to be able to flip this matchup here. You can go for a Dragon Claw. It is double resisted. It's doing literally nothing here. We can go for the Aerial Ace. The opponent lets that go through, and they are probably just going to let us fully Steel Wing, farm them down, and take that game. So going into the next battle, we see Flygon in the lead this time around. So going to safe swap into our Shadow Scizor, and the opponent going to fire off a Dragon Claw. So we can just safely let this go through, and the opponent now going to swap into Azumarill. So potentially just putting us into bubble farm down range, which is fine. We can go for a Trailblaze, hitting for huge super effective damage and boosting our attack, and the opponent probably going to have to shield this Night Slash if they want to maintain alignment, and they are going to use that shield. But they do get the bubble farm down, so They do have quite a lot of energy here. We might have to respect the damage. Usually Azumarill in the back is going to run Hydro Pump, but this opponent just goes for a play rough there, so we can probably let the next move go through. I feel like it's quite unlikely that they would bait there, and they do just go for a second play rough. They swap back into Flygon, and that is a huge mistake because we can go for a play rough, grab the final shield from the opponent, and then completely wall the Flygon once again, and this is just so satisfying to see. Obviously yesterday I had an absolutely horrid time up against Flygon, running my triple Shadow Magnemite family theme team, which obviously gets destroyed by Flygon. Like, there is no worse counter to that team than Flygon, but it is so satisfying to see it once again getting completely hard countered by a Togetic. We can let the next move go through as well. Not going to do any damage. They go for a Dragon Claw, and the opponent has a Registeel in the back, so that was actually huge, them giving up switch advantage there, because otherwise we'd have had our Togetic aligned to their Registeel, so not ideal. But here we're just basically forcing the opponent to throw their energy. They can't lock on Farmers down. They go for a Focus Blast, which is a really bad misplay. What on earth is that? We can now go for a Dazzling Gleam. Not going to do too much damage, but it should basically put them into range where a Discharge will nearly KO. It won't quite, but doesn't really matter. We can go for the Discharge here. Discharge is going to get them very low. The opponent recognizing there's nothing they can do, so they just concede the match there. And into the next battle, we see Azumarill in the lead. The opponent safe swaps into Flygon, and once again, we can just completely wall it with our Togetic. It's looking really good for us so far, but it might be Double Dragon in the back, and if it is, it might be Turtonator, in which case, that will be very troublesome for this team. But let's see, we're still going to play out this matchup here. We're going to no shield. I believe we've already fired off a charge move, and we're going to go for a full Steel Wing farm down. The opponent can spam these charge moves very quickly, and honestly, they might even be able to throw enough charge moves here to swap back out of this matchup, but I don't think there's really any point in doing that. So they go for another Dragon Claw. They do get us fairly low, but we've got 100 energy, so we can just go fire off a Dazzling Gleam straight away. Dazzling Gleam, I do believe we have been debuffed in our attack, so unfortunately doesn't do too much damage here. You might even consider swapping out just because obviously this damage is going to be pretty wasted up against Azumarill, but I guess we are just going to stay in, fire off an Aerial Ace, but the opponent will be able to get the full bowl farm down though, so they're probably going to be able to grab a shield from us. We're going to swap into our Shadow Scizor though instead, and the opponent is going to blind throw an Ice Beam, but they have the Turtonator in the back, and suddenly this looks really tricky. We are going to go for a Discharge bait though. So Discharge does grab a shield from the opponent, which is pretty huge. If they no-shielded that, it's instantly game over. They're going to go for a Dragon Pulse, which is double resisted, but we have to preserve the health on our Dedenne because Shadow Scizor can do literally nothing in this matchup. We do grab the final shield from the opponent, and hopefully we can make it to one final play rough before they do go for a full Incinerate farm down, and we do just barely get there in time. Play rough still won't be enough damage to KO though. So unfortunately we come in with our Shadow Scizor, and they do make it to a charge move in time, and whatever they throw, Dragon Pulse is going to be enough damage to take us out, and unfortunately we do lose that game despite completely walling the Flygon in that safe swap position. But into the next battle, we see a Galarian Rapidash in the lead, so the opponent could be running high horsepower, probably are running it, so we're going to go for a Discharge, then swap, try to catch the high horsepower onto our Togetic. I do like this play, and the opponent does just bait with a Body Slam, but doesn't really matter. Togetic can tank that fairly easily. They're then going to come in with Azumarill, and we have not been debuffed in our attack this time around, so the Dazzling Gleam actually does quite a significant amount of damage there. We are probably just going to no shield here. Togetic is quite bulky. The opponent goes for a play rough, so probably not running Ice Beam, otherwise they would have just thrown it. We can now go for an Aerial Ace, put the Azumarill into Thunder Shock farm down range, but since they have revealed play rough, they probably have Hydro Pump in the back, so we might shield this up. We are going to shield, and it is the Hydro Pump, so good shield usage there. The opponent swaps into their Rapidash. We get the snipe with our Shadow Scizor, and the opponent just concedes the match there. So going into the next battle, we see another Flygon in the lead. So once again, going to safe swap into our Shadow Scizor, and the opponent is going to stay in with the Flygon. We can outpace them if we go for a Night Slash before the Scorching Sands, and the opponent lets that go through. So at this point, probably just going to shield the Scizor here, as the opponent is going to go for a Dragon Claw bait, but they swap into their Azumarill, so that's fine with us. We can go for a Trailblaze before they make it to any charge move, and Trailblaze, as always, going to be boosting our attack. Hits for huge damage as well, and the opponent has to fire off a charge move before we get to a Night Slash. The opponent goes for an Ice Beam. It does quite take us out from that range. Oh, sorry, it does just take us out from that range. We can now come in with the Dedenne, and they go for a play rough. Can we get a full Thundershock farm down here? Yes, we can. We come out with so much loaded energy. So let's see what the Pokemon is that they come in with. They come in with Flygon. We are going to go for a triple resisted discharge bait, but we grab that shield, and then we swap. We catch the move onto our Togetic, which is pretty huge. They just go for a Dragon Claw there, and they've got Galarian Rapidash in the pack. So this is looking really good for us. We lose CMP, but it doesn't matter. Just going to be a Body Slam, which we can tank very easily. Gonna go for an Aerial Ace here, and Aerial Ace will put them into perfect farm down range, but the opponent does just make it to another charge move, so the safe play is just to shield the Body Slam. Of course, Flygon's moves are going to be resisted. We can just fully Steel Wing, farm them all the way down, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, we see a Shadow Alone and Sandslash in the lead. So not ideal. Obviously, Drill Run is going to hit for super effective damage, but then they could, if we try and go for a swap onto our Togetic, they could go for an Ice Punch bait, and then obviously that's also super effective there. So I believe the play is just to play out the Zero Shield scenario, call a bait, but they do full send the Drill Run. Bit unfortunate, but the opponent's going to swap into their own Dedenne now. So we're just going to stay in with the Shadow Scizor. Obviously, Togetic, not a great matchup there, as we do take super effective damage from the electric typing. We can go for a Trailblaze, and Trailblaze is going to go unshielded. We can now just fully Bullet Punch, farm them down with our boosted attack, and the opponent is going to come back in with their Sandslash. We're going to double shield our Scizor here, calling that they've got something weak to the Scizor in the back, and it's going to be Azumarill. Of course it is. It is the Azumarill Cup after all. We're going to go for a Night Slash bait here. I feel like since they've got 2 shields remaining, it's not that risky. And now we go for a Night Slash. This definitely is risky because we're not even going to make it to a 3rd Night Slash in time. So there was no point baiting there. But we come in with our Togetic. We are going to see that the opponent is going to go for a Hydro Pump, so they're not running Ice Beam, which is pretty huge for us. But I just don't think we're quite going to be able to deal enough damage here with our Togetic. We go for the Dazzling Gleam, and it doesn't quite take them out there. And I wonder if we went for at least one Trailblaze with our Shadow Scizor, boosted our attack, maybe the fast move damage could have taken that as a could have taken out the Azumarill there before they got off the charge move. But oh well, into the next battle, we're going to see the opponent save swaps into Registeel. This is actually fine with us. We do resist everything they can throw, unless they're running like Flash Cannon or Hyper Beam, but their typical moveset anyways, we will resist. As they go for a Zap Cannon, they do get the attack drop, which is not ideal since it will take possibly even 4 discharges to take them out here. But let's see, we go for the discharge, and yeah, it looks like this next discharge still won't be enough damage to take out the Registeel either, so really not ideal there. The opponent can actually just win the Zero Shield scenario, which is quite interesting. They go for the Zap Cannon number 2, but we do get a very nice Bullet Punch farm down, and let's see what the 3rd Pokemon is. They're going to come in with an Escavalier, so we're going to go for a Night Slash here. Night Slash going to do some decent damage in this matchup, not huge damage by any means, but we're going to swap. We try to catch the move. The opponent does still end up throwing, and the opponent does go for the Drill Run, so very slow reactions from the opponent. We're going to see the opponent comes back in with their Azumarill, and we probably just double shield in this matchup here because obviously Escavalier can't really throw much up against Togetic, so we might as well preserve our health. But let's see how we play this out. We go for a second Aerial Ace. The opponent happy to let both moves go through. We're now going to let the move go through as well. They go for the play rough here, and we can go for another Aerial Ace. Going to get the Azumarill very low, but I believe they can just shield maybe, fully farm us down, but we swap back into our Shadow Scizor. We are not going to fire off a charge move straight away. Ideally, we want to hold onto our energy in case the opponent swaps back into the Escavalier, and here we do perfectly hold onto the energy. We can go for Night Slash. The opponent just lets that go through, and we can just fully Bullet Punch, farm down the Azu, and take that game. So really well played by Palitrochettle there in the end game, because I probably would have just double shielded my Togetic and that probably wouldn't have worked out for me, but he was able to find the win condition, and now here we're able to swap, catch the move onto our Togetic, catching an Aerial Ace though. So interesting, the opponent was going to go for a resisted Aerial Ace up against our Dedenne, but that's fine. We can now go for a Dazzling Gleam up against the Azumarill coming in, and that does quite a lot of damage there to the Azu. Once again, just going to no-shield our Togetic as the opponent full sends a Hydro Pump, one-shotting the Togetic, but we can now come in with our Dedenne, and we're not going to be able to farm them down from this range, but we can go for a pretty significant over-farm here. But no, actually just going to fire off a Discharge pretty much straight away, get rid of the Azumarill, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. they're going to come in with a Slurpuff here. So we're going to farm up to the play rough, then fire off a discharge. The opponent is going to let the discharge go through, but we do make it to a second discharge and we throw on the CMP tie. So that's pretty huge. We grab a shield from the opponent, and at this point we can probably, okay, we're going to shield this up. I was going to say swap into our Shadow Scizor, and we do swap at the same time as the opponent. We could have fired off a charge move there and one CMP, but instead, gonna shield up a second Aerial Ace, and at this point, we should just be able to go for the back-to-back Night Slashes. They are resisted, but it's the bullet punches that are gonna start adding up. First one grabs a shield from the opponent. We actually get the Night Slash boost, and that is huge because now a Night Slash will easily take out the Slurpuff from this range, and we take that game. So going into the next battle, we see Alolan Sandslash in the lead. So once again, probably just going to play out the zero shield scenario here. Going to go for a discharge on the CMP tie with a potential drill run. And the opponent lets the first one go through. They're going to overfarm here, and they overfarm too much, allowing us to make it to discharge number 2. And now we forced a shield advantage. We'll probably happily let this move go through. And the opponent is going to go for an Ice Punch, which is so unnecessary because they have to fire off another charge move. And at this point, we're actually going to shield here, and then we can win the one shield scenario because of that unnecessary bait. Now, discharge will be taking out the Sandslash, and the opponent comes in with Galarian Weezing. So this is a good matchup, but with quite a significant energy advantage, this is looking quite scary. We're going to shield up the Sludge bait, which is really unfortunate, and now we're going to swap. We're going to catch the overheat onto our Togetic, but it's still going to do huge damage to the Togetic. The opponent stays in for a bit too long there, didn't realize we were running Steel Wing, and now we can go for a Dazzling Gleam up against the Azumarill, but unfortunately, I think they will be able to bubble farm us down before we make it to a second Dazzling Gleam, so it just depends. Does the opponent shield in this scenario here? We go for an Aerial Ace, and they no-shield it. They correctly no-shield that, and now we go for a Night Slash here. We kind of just need to hope that the opponent isn't running Hydro Pump. If they're running Hydro Pump, it is absolutely game over, and it is the Hydro Pump. It one-shots the Shadow Scizor, and unfortunately, we do lose that game. But into the next battle, we see Flygon in the lead. So once again, going to say swap into our Shadow Scizor. And we are actually going to not throw the Night Slash straight away this time around. The opponent does bait with the Dragon Claw, and they swap into a Registeel. So we're now going to go for a Night Slash. Night Slash doesn't get the boost, unfortunately, and I don't think we're going to flip this matchup now, especially without a boost. We've already used one shield as well, so probably not going to double shield, but we do actually get the boost this time. So okay, I take that back. Now since we get the boost, we have a potential win condition here. Going to go for the next Night Slash, throwing just before they make it to the next charge move. Night Slash will be grabbing a shield there, and we make it to another Night Slash in time. That's absolutely huge, and now we can grab, well, both shields back from the opponent, which is pretty good for us considering Shadow Scizor doesn't have a particularly good matchup there. But then the opponent, once again, they give up switch advantage. They come in with their Flygon, and oh my gosh, Togetic is just going to go for a full Steel Wing farm down there. The opponent goes for the Scorching Sands, no debuff. They're going to go for another Scorching Sands, still no debuff. We can go for the full farm down. And of course, they do make it to another charge move, but that's fine with us. Dragon Claw, not going to do much damage. The Registeel is low enough for us to take them out with our Togetic, so let's see what they want to do. They actually come in with a Alolan Sandslash, so we go straight for the Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam does big damage there. We swap into our Dedenne, expecting a catch, and we can now just farm to the back-to-back discharges. The first one will definitely take out the Registeel. The second one will be enough damage from this range to take out the Alolan Sandslash, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, we see Turtonator in the lead, so not ideal, but we probably do want to see it here, so that's fine. We're going to go for a play rough straight away. If they let this go through, we might end up swapping out, but let's see. The opponent is going to shield up the play rough, which is not ideal, but they're going to farm to 100 energy as well, so we will be able to outpace them to the next charge move. They go for a Flamethrower, so Flamethrower obviously not going to hit nearly as hard as Overheat, but it doesn't debuff their attack, so Incinerate still chunking our Dedenne. But we do make it to a play rough, but the opponent makes a really nice catch onto their Whimsicott. But we now come in with our Togetic, go for a full Steel Wing farm down. They're actually running Charm there, so they don't make it to a charge move. And we are going to see the opponent comes back in with their Turtonator. We could live this since we have seen it is just going to be a Flamethrower, but we're going to shield anyways. Going to go for a Dazzling Gleam, and Dazzling Gleam should be enough damage to KO from this range. It does take out the Turtonator, and they've got a load of Ninetales in the back. We're hitting for double super effective damage with these Steel Wings, and we're able to take that game. Into the next game, we see Dedenne Mirror Match, so interesting matchup here. and we're going to have to farm to the play rough, potentially bait with a discharge, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to let the first move go through from the opponent, and they go for that play rough. We're going to go for a discharge here. Is the opponent going to respect the damage? They are going to correctly shield, so both of us have made the right play in terms of shielding, or at least firing off a charge move that gets shielded or no shielded, but this time they can just go for the discharge from this range. Since we are very low, we go for the play rough, get them fairly low as well, and at this point it's just going to be a CMP tie once again, which we do and unfortunately lose. We're just going to let the Dene go down as they go for another discharge. We can come in with our Shadow Scizor, and the opponent's actually going to swap into their Tapu Fini, so that's quite an interesting play here. We're going to go for a Trailblaze. Trailblaze is going to grab the shield from the opponent, boosting our attack. And we can now just shield up the Surf from the opponent. We can just go for a Night Slash here, honestly, as this will be enough damage to KO from this range. And let's see what that final Pokemon is. It is wow, we actually get a boost there, and these bullet punches are doing huge damage to the Togetic in the back. For some reason, they are running Hidden Power. I'm interested to know what Hidden Power they're running. Obviously, it's hard to tell here, but they're going to go for a charge move. The opponent also running Ancient Power, but it doesn't matter. We can Steel Wing, farm down to Dene, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, another Flygon in the lead. So once again, going to say swap into our Shadow Scizor, and the opponent is staying in. We're going to go for the Night Slash straight away before they make it to a Scorching Sands. The opponent actually shields this time, so since we get an early shield advantage, I was going to say we might consider no shielding, but they do full send the Scorching Sands, unfortunately debuffing our attack, but we can just boost it up once again with a Trailblaze, so that's exactly what we're going to do. And Trailblaze does boost our attack back to the normal attack stat. At this point, just going to let the move go through as they go for a play rough. We can come in with our Dene. We can overfarm just a little bit, not loads, but we're going to actually fire off on the CMP tie, it looks like, as we go for the discharge, taking out the Azumarill. And the opponent is going to wait out this risk, come in with the Flygon. We should try and make a catch here, but instead we're going to go and throw on the CMP tie and also throw a discharge, which I don't agree with whatsoever, but let's see, has the opponent been counting? We go for the discharge, and we do at least grab the shield there. We should have then tried to make a catch, because now obviously we come in with our Togetic. Not ideal, since we do get completely walled by this Registeel, but we're going to go and fire off a Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam doesn't do much damage there. We're going to see that Zap Cannon does take out the Togetic. At least we do resist everything Registeel can throw, so hopefully we can still play out this matchup here, but we go for a discharge. We need to make it to another discharge and then a play rough up against the Flygon, but I just don't think we're quite going to get there in time. We are getting very low, unfortunately get the debuff to our attack as well, and yeah, unfortunately we're not quite going to make it to enough charge moves to KO the Registeel and the Flygon, so they do take us out with a Focus Blast, and we do unfortunately lose that game. But into the next battle, see Flygon in the lead once again, so we are going to stay in this lead matchup, throw after 8 Thunder Shocks, so on the CMP tie with either a Sky Attack or a Brave Bird. And once again, we are going to shield this up, and the opponent is just going to go for a Sky Attack, so I think that is quite an unnecessary shield. But we can now overfarm once again, farming to the back-to-back discharges, so if the opponent does want to shield here, they are going to hit by a second discharge, so instead they do no shield. They come in with Flygon. We're going to go for a play rough here, and probably the right play is just to stay in this matchup, let them farm us down, because that energy is absolutely going to go to waste when we come in with our Togetic. So unfortunately the opponent was counting there. They do let that go through correctly, but we can come in with our Shadow Scizor up against a Azumarill, and we're looking pretty good. We can just safely shield this up. It's probably going to be a bait, and the opponent does go for a play rough, but that's fine. We can make it to back-to-back Trailblazers in time, or at least we should be able to. The first one does grab a shield from the opponent. We do get the boost, and we do make it to a second Trailblaze in time, and this is going to be game over for the opponent. Trailblaze will be taking out the Azumarill. We boost our attack once again. They have to fire off a charge move here, because double boosted bullet punches are doing huge damage. But it doesn't matter, we come in with our Togetic, and it is game over. The opponent gonna fire off a Scorching Sands, doesn't get the attack drop there, and we are... I mean, I honestly don't know why the opponent is still playing out this matchup here. They're just dealing nowhere near enough damage, and the opponent has finally come to their senses and conceded the match. Into the next battle, another Turtonator in the lead, so once again, this is probably where we want to see it. We're going to go for the play rough straight away, and the opponent is going to be shielding up the play rough, not ideal for us. The opponent once again going to farm up to 100 energy before throwing. They full send the overheat here, and now we can go for a bait. Okay, I'm not sure about the bait here. We go for the discharge, the opponent lets that go through, and I just felt like that was so unnecessary, but it is what it is. They go for another overheat. They're going to probably swap out, and they swap into their Azumarill. So we're going to swap immediately into our Shadow Scizor. Obviously, has an awful matchup up against the Turtonator, so probably just going to sacrifice it here as the opponent goes for a Play Rough. Does quite a lot of damage considering that is resisted, but we can go for a Trailblaze. The opponent lets the Trailblaze go through, and unfortunately we just barely miss out on the Night Slash as well, so it's not looking too good for us. We're going to shield up the Play Rough here, go for the full Steel Wing farm down, but I think Turtonator will be able to make it to another charge move. But they actually come in with Whimsicott instead, so we're going to fire off the Aerial Ace here. Going to hit for super effective damage, but I think they should still be able to live this and make it to a Moonblast. And if this is a Moonblast, it should be game over. Moonblast gets us very low, and then Turtonator will be able to just shield up the charge move, go for the Incinerate farm down, and there's nothing we can do. Actually, they still no-shield it. They're very confident that we weren't going to go for the Dazzling Gleam, because actually, if we went for the Dazzling Gleam, we probably could have won that, but well played by the opponent there. And into the next battle, the opponent safe swaps into Flygon, and once again, we can just fully punish them with the Togetic as they go for Scorching Sands. They do get the attack drop, so not ideal, just because it's going to take a little bit longer to get rid of them. And we are now going to go for an Aerial Ace. We should be fully charging it now since we are attack debuff, but no, we're going to undercharge it. Completely unnecessary, because now they can just go and debuff our attack potentially once more. They go for the Scorching Sands, and they do get the attack drop, and we are at 100 energy. We farm well over 100 energy, so that undercharge was very unnecessary. But let's go for the Dazzling Gleam here. Not going to do much damage. The opponent probably still can't lock on farm us down though, so that's still fine with us. They have to fire off a charge move, otherwise we will actually get the Registeel fairly low if they go for the full lock on farm down, and the opponent does finally decide to throw a charge move. They're going to go for a Focus Blast. That does take us out from that range, but we come in with the Dene. We can wall their energy, so we go for a Discharge straight away. Discharge is going to be no-shielded, and they've got a Como-O in the back, running Poison Jab as well, so Scizor actually has a pretty good matchup, especially when all shields are in play. We shield up the Dragon Claw, just going to go for a Trailblaze here. We will be able to boost our attack. The opponent probably likely to bait once again, and we do boost our attack here, but we could just let this go in all honesty. But we are going to shield. It is the Dragon Claw, and we can go for a Night Slash at the last second. I think the opponent is now at enough energy to fire off a close combat, and this will be taking us out. But it doesn't matter, as we come in with our Dedenne. They fire off a charge move. It's going to be resisted damage. All we have to do is farm to the back-to-back discharges. The first one will be enough damage to take out the Registeel, and even a resisted discharge will be enough damage from this range to take out the Como-O. So pretty safe play here for the end game, taking out the Como-O, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, we see Escavalier in the lead, so a bit of a tricky lead matchup here. It looks like the opponent might have been lagging, but I don't know if that was just visual lag or if they were actually lagging there, but we're just going to play it out as we would normally do. We're actually going to swap there, and we're able to make a really nice catch onto our Togetic, and it is a resisted, double resisted Drill Run actually, so really good play. We're going to bank a ton of energy, swap into their Charm Primarina. We're going to go straight for an Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace will be no shielded by the opponent. We will make it to another Aerial Ace, and if they go for the full Charm Farm Down, we might even make it to a third Aerial Ace in this matchup, and we don't quite make it there. Really unfortunate, but we can come in with our Dedenne, probably going to shield in this matchup and go for a full Thundershock farm down. The opponent going to go for Disarming Voice, and we are going to see the opponent going to come back in with their Escavalier. We don't throw a charge move, we don't do anything actually, but we should be able to Thundershock farm them down, but the opponent's got a Azumarill in the back, so it's looking pretty good for us. We go for a Discharge. Discharge doesn't do too much damage in all honesty, but I think the play here is just to stay in with our Dedenne, force the opponent to throw their energy as soon as possible, otherwise they will be hit by another charge move. But no, actually, we're going to bank some of the energy, swap into our Shadow Scizor, go for a Night Slash here. Night Slash going to be resisted damage, but the opponent has to throw their charge move here. The opponent goes for the Hydro Pump. We can now just come in with our Dedenne, overfarm massively in this matchup, farm two back-to-back discharges. The first one will be enough damage to easily take out the Azumarill, and the second one will be enough to take out the Escavalier from very minimal health, and Discharge will be taking out the Escav, and we take that game. So going into the next battle, another Flygon in the lead, so we are going to say swap into our Shadow Scizor once again, and the opponent is going to fire off a Dragon Claw, so we can just let this move go through. Dragon Claw, not going to do too much damage, once again going to chip and then swap into a Azumarill, and probably just go for a full Bubble Farm down. We go for the Trailblaze, hitting for huge damage up against the Azu, and we can, well, we could have made it to the charge move there, so the opponent shields, but we're actually going to shield up our Shadow Scizor, potentially flip this matchup here. Does the opponent want to shield their Azu? No, they're going to let it go through, and that's huge for us because now we can come in with our Togetic, fully wall the Flygon, and unless they are running Turtonator in the back once again, we should be looking pretty good, but even then, we've got two Pokemon that are going to do fairly neutral up against it, but let's see, it's actually going to be a Scizor of their own, so this is a bit tricky actually. We're going to go for the Aerial Ace, hitting for neutral damage, and we swap into our Dedenne, going to go for a Discharge now, and Discharge is probably going to grab a shield from the opponent. It does grab the shield here. We probably should be shielding in this matchup, but we're not going to shield. It's a Trailblaze. It boosts their attack, and now these Bullet Punches are doing huge damage to our Togetic. I think we might have just thrown away this game here. They go for another Trailblaze, hitting for huge damage, and now we're in range where Flygon will actually be able to take out a Togetic, which is quite embarrassing for the Togetic since it is such a hard wall, but we're so low that even a Dragon Claw will be taking out the Togetic, and unfortunately we do end up losing that game. But into the next battle, we see Azumarill in the lead, so once again, just going to stay in this matchup, expecting the opponent to probably try and swap out of this matchup, but no, they're going to stay in with their Azu, so we're going to go for a Discharge. The opponent no shields the first one, we make it to a second Discharge, and we throw on the CMP tie, and Discharge is going to grab a shield from the opponent, so we might as well shield in this matchup. And they go for a Play Rough there, so that's fine with us. We can't outpace them to the next charge move, so we're going to fire off a Discharge as soon as we get there. Discharge will be taking out the Azumarill, and let's see what the opponent has in the back. They're going to come in with Turtonator. We're going to swap out of this matchup, which is quite risky, because obviously if they just want to swap out of this matchup, we'll then have our Shadow Scizor aligned to the Turtonator, but we call a Dragon Pulse bait, and that's absolutely huge for us. We now go for a Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam grabs a shield from the opponent, and the opponent is going to fire off a charge move here. At this point, we're going to let it go through as they go for a second Dragon Pulse, but unfortunately, once again, we faint as we get to the charge move. We're going to come in with the Dedenne there and swap and then catch the move onto our Shadow Scizor, and that should be game over for the opponent. They go for a Seed Bomb. That is double resisted. Perfect for us. The opponent going to go for another charge move. Absolutely fine. We can let this move go through as they go for another Seed Bomb. We are going to overfarm here. Farm to the back-to-back Night Sashes. The first one will be taking out the Whimsicott, and if we get a boost here, unfortunately we don't, but it doesn't matter. We can let the Scizor go down. Actually, we're going to shield this. Pretty unnecessary, but it doesn't matter. We can go for a Night Slash, and a Play Rough will certainly KO after landing the Night Slash. We could have even gone for Discharge there, but we did have the Play Rough loaded, so Play Rough will be taking out the Turtonator, and we're able to take that game. And into, I believe, the final battle of this video. Quite a lot of battles, actually more than I expected. I think they submitted like 25. I got rid of quite a few, but there's still quite a lot of battles in this video. We go for a Discharge up against the Azumarill once again. And this time they do fire off a charge move before we make it to the back-to-back. They go for the Play Rough, which we could live quite easily, but they're going to swap into Escavalier. So we're going to go for a Discharge immediately, possibly farm to the next Discharge, and then swap into our Togetic, and that's exactly what we do. Really nice play, and the opponent is going to go for a Drill Run, double resisted. At this point, we can probably just Steel Wing farm them down, even though it is also resisted by the Escavalier. They are hitting for double resisted counter damage. They go for a Mega Horn, but that's still double resisted by the Togetic. We do get the full farm down, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to come in with Skarmory, so unfortunately they're now going to wall our energy on our Togetic. We go for a Dazzling Gleam. It still does some decent damage there. It is a Shadow Skarmory, and we do make it to an Aerial Ace before we go down. Aerial Ace actually ends up grabbing a shield from the opponent. We're going to come in with our Dedenne here, go for the Discharge straight away. This should be grabbing the final shield from the opponent. It does grab the final shield. And honestly, I would probably just let this move go through, but we're going to shield up a Brave Bird. So the opponent full sent a Brave Bird there. We can now go for the Discharge straight away. Discharge will definitely take out the Skarmory from this range, especially after the Brave Bird debuff. And the opponent's just going to concede the match there to the Dedenne, and we take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.